Are you experiencing back pain that you can't get rid of? Getting migraines, vertigo, having trouble sleeping, and/or brain fog? Do you feel like your medical doctor doesn't understand your condition? Blair Chiropractic might be the solution you've been looking for. If you've ever been skeptical about this, the two doctors you're about to listen to were even more skeptical than you were when they looked into chiropractic work. But fear not. Get expert guidance from the blonde and the bald, Doctors Beth Bagley and Frederick Schurger. These two doctors have extensive experience beyond the healthcare realm and bringing unique vision and healing to their patients. What do you have when you get a biological analyst and an engineer together? Find out right here on another episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Welcome your hosts, Doctors Bagley and Schurger.
Good evening, Dr. Bagley. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, Dr. Schurger?
I'm doing excellent. Welcome, everyone, to The Blonde and the Bald. If you can't
I'm
tell
the blonde.
Yes, she's
I'm the blonde. No,
blonde.
I am. It's me.
Yeah. We are glad to have you here for another great week. We've got some good stories. I think this is going to be a fun one. This one will not be as spicy as last week's.
No, that is a great way to say it. We were a little spicy last week. Yeah. So we're going to be heading into allergy season
Very
here
much
soon.
Very
in the Midwest, especially where we're at, St. Louis and Springfield, we get some pretty bad ones.
Oh, yeah. I joke about it. Ever since I moved into this area, I call them the Illinois allergies.
Yeah.
I've grown up in I've lived in the Midwest, most of my life. I know you have too.
My whole life.
I've been in the rural areas most of the time.
Yeah, so, you have more than me. I've been a big city girl.
Yes, you have. Although
like the suburbs.
Right. But still, you're not.
I know, but I've never lived in the country. You're right.
I have literally lived next door to a field, and we've had the fields plowed. And around here, when the fields start getting plowed, there's all sorts of dust and chemicals and stuff breaking up into the air. And I call them the Illinois allergies, which are spring and fall. And we're coming into that. And it's funny because as we're recording this and we're sort of future pacing for when this is coming out, they just, the Cochrane study just came out that says, hey, masks don't work for viral and respiratory
viruses.
For respiratory viruses, especially.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, we knew this. This is not a surprise. But what is taking place that helps us to not have all these allergens is actually this wonderful thing in the middle of our face. Mine's pretty big. Yours looks much better than mine.
I've got. If everybody can see, if you're watching, I got a little. Don't look at my zit.
She's saying, don't look at her face.
There's this thing on my face right here, but not right that thing on my face. This thing on my face.
But these, we have these amazing noses. And I remember growing up, I would, with a buddy of mine, we would go running track. So his sister ran track, so he was going to run track, and I was hanging out with him until show choir practice with, because I was, he were both an eye on that.
You were in show choir?
I played trombone. I never sang and danced.
I was in show choir.
Exactly. That's why we get along. But I was the guy in the background playing the horns choir. and then playing bass later. But I would hang out with him until practice, and shoot, we were going for a run. So we would be going for a run in the middle of spring, and my sinuses were just dripping and dripping and dripping the entire time. And we joked, hey, it might just be easier to cut the whole thing off. And I entertained that thought for several years. Thankfully, I got my head on straight, and that took care of it. But these noses are designed to filter out a bunch of junk. Yes.
Which is why we have little hairs in there that everybody wants to get rid of, but keep some of them in there.
Not only do you have hairs, but you have mucus, and you have these, actually it's three little bones, sort of like my fingers here, that actually create air currents that do two things. Yes. One, it mixes the oxygen, CO2 and nitrogen that is coming in and out. It actually warms the air coming into your lungs. So if it's especially on these cold days that we've got right now.
It's so important to breathe through your nose.
Exactly. And if you breathe through your mouth, all the filtration that is happening up here goes away. And even more so, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Well, what I will say is in the show, Stranger Things, it was the first time I've ever heard somebody make fun of a mouth breather. They would call the kids called each other like, oh, that guy's a mouth breather.
Right.
And I realized, I was like, that it's because when you're breathing through your mouth like this, you don't look smart either. No. So,
and it actually, I'm going to turn for a profile. You can see here how my face comes down and my chin is pretty even with my face, maybe a little bit of a jutting out into the jaw, which is really what we want. When you breathe through your mouth more, the jaw actually retracts and you have a harder time breathing through your mouth. It actually causes bite problems. It causes TMJ problems.
Yep.
We had a wonderful dental radiologist speaking at our last convention.
She was great, wasn't she?
She was fantastic.
What's her name? Do you remember it?
I don't.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
Although I realize, I remember she commented on somebody else's cone beam CT recently about a cavity that was going on, and she was savage about it. Oh, it was so great because it was Dr. Stenberg's patient, and she basically said, "Send that over to the dentist and have them pull that tooth immediately. There's no saving that." I mean, it was savage, but she's great, and but she was basically telling everyone that if you breathe through your mouth, it is going to destroy your mouth. It's going to destroy your jaw, and because you're not filtering all the stuff that is supposed to be coming through, it's going to destroy your health and your immunity is going to get dropped. So this is why there's a great book. I wanted to bring it out, but I have it at the house and I don't have it here in the office. There's a great book by James Nestor called Breathe, where he goes into detail.
People talk about this book all the time. I have not read it.
You need to read it. It's fantastic.
Okay, I'm going to get it.
It's a fun read. It is a very technical book, but James brings you along through the story so easily. I recommend it to everybody. There's two books. There's another one called Oxygen Advantage that came out maybe a couple of months before James's book came out. I got through about 5 chapters and I put it down. And I saw it the other day and I haven't picked it back up. James's book, I read in a weekend. And
it's something thickness, and
same thickness, same
I've
content.
heard patients talk about this book. And so people who are not even in health fields like this book.
It's a
that's
real
incredible.
Easy read. And if you still don't want to read the book, go find the Joe Rogan podcast with James, probably late 2019. It's a great listen. James is a prolific writer and storyteller. He's great. But one of the things that he tells people to do is put tape over their mouth, just a little bit of pour tape. And if you have children, I'm telling you, put it on their mouths.
Do not do that. Nope.
Before they go to sleep. No, before they go to sleep.
What?
No. So they
don't have children. You cannot put a piece of tape on your kids. And now I get it that you're just putting it there because I've used mouth tape before.
Exactly.
But no.
You have to help them. You have to train them into good habits at an early age. And if that doesn't work for sleeping, you can do it at dinner time. After dinner time, you just put a big old piece of duct tape across their mouth, and then they'll be quiet.
None of it. He's joking. And I don't recommend putting tape on the kid's mouth because they're going to have a complex or have some sort of that's like, no, I'm not going to recommend it. You can recommend what you want, but no, my gosh, no. I do think keeping your mouth closed when you're sleeping is really important. Yes. And if you can't do it, a lot of times that's because you have some sort of apnea or some airway constriction that's happening.
Absolutely. And this is why the taping helps. And again, I know several people, another podcaster and YouTube notorieties, Mike Mutzel, and he did that with his child. Honestly, within about a week, they didn't have to do tape anymore because the kids learn faster than the adults.
So watch for your kids and see, and then talk to your doctor and your doctor about that. Don't just up and do it.
They'll be fine.
Okay. So going back to allergies, there's a couple things I like to tell patients and that I do personally during allergy season. I still get allergies. I never got allergies until I was in late high school. I didn't have any lick of any problems at all and never had a sniffle until I got a little older. because allergies can develop over time. They don't have to be born. You don't have to be born with them. And the development of allergies probably had a lot to do with me not being in alignment. I'll be honest, because my alignment was getting worse and worse and worse. And through high school, it was terrible. So a couple things I currently do, because I still get some allergies. They're definitely not as bad as since I started upper cervical care and Blair care. But some things I do to stop allergies from being as bad in the spring is I start taking a supplement called D-Hist, the letter D, and then -Hist from Orthomolecular Products. I start taking that in that
brand there, but not this product,
but not that one. And I start taking that in early March. Like I will start about a month before allergy season hits. So I definitely already I have like 2 bottles at my house ahead of time, but my kids take it too. So
right. And you're living on the west side of St. Louis, where if you think about how the winds blow, they tend to blow east to west as the farms and fields are getting plowed out west of you. All of that dust is coming across. And that's how you're getting some of that. And, as early
and then just
as
the
late
pollen,
March.
It's the tree pollen.
Yeah.
That's what
and you
gets
guys do
me
have
gets the most.
Yeah. You guys have
and I live right next to the woods. So, and then the second thing I do is when tree pollen, grass pollen starts, where you can see where you've got that thick yellow on your car when you come out your car and you have to it's gross. That's when I start using the neti pot, and I use it once a day. So I like the neti pot because it helps me clean out my sinuses. I only use filtered water. I won't use tap water because you do not want to put tap water up your nose, and saline additive to it. Not everybody likes it. I can go through how I do it sometime because there is a special way to do it, because a lot of people feel like they're going to choke and die when they do it.
Right.
But there's absolutely a way. And I had my kids doing it when they were little kids, like they were 3 or 4 years old, and they could do it. If they can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Have you ever used an neti pot?
No, I've never, I have, from all of my years of swimming, I had never enjoyed any water going up my nose. So I've had a severe reaction. Not quite an allergy, but very close to using one. But I much prefer a spray bottle, one of these nasal spray bottles. I have this one filled with a 1% iodine solution, again, filtered water.
Nice.
And with iodine, you basically, mix it down so from the 10% liquid to the 5% liquid. Just a couple squirts up the nose. I do that in the morning generally to just sort of clean stuff out.
And that can actually help with viruses too. I've heard.
Right. And that's what they were saying. There was some back and forth. I've seen some research studies that were more inconclusive. But quite honestly, anything that rinses out the nasal passages.
Exactly.
And sometimes, if you're in a situation where you're like, I'm not sure what's going on, once a day might not be enough. Maybe twice a day is what you need.
There's also now that you said it, I use a nasal spray called Clear, but it's Xlear, and it's a xylitol solution.
Yes. My only worry about xylitol, I like that. I like xylitol generally. Though you have to be careful around dogs.
Absolutely, could kill
dogs.
Dogs
do not like xylitol.
That will murder your dogs.
That's bad stuff.
And watch out for xylitol gum, because that at least has a flavor, to it. So the dog might be more attracted to it. So watch out for xylitol in your house if you have dogs.
But again, both are great for sort of clearing out the nasal passageway and keeping them moist. As we've been inside in the heat all winter long, we just don't have the moisture. And as the moisture continues to, until the moisture starts coming back in and you can have normal Midwest humidity. Hey, welcome
I
to the Midwest.
actually prefer that, because every time I touch a patient right now, I am shocking them.
Yeah.
I touch them and I shock them.
Yep.
It's because they take their fluffy coats off and then they walk and they sit down, and then I'm like, I shock them. I was like, oh, that's part of your treatment today, therapy.
Which is also why I tend to take my shoes off in the office so that I'm not shocking everybody as well. So
I'm definitely shocking people, and nobody wants to be around my feet.
So
okay, so
two allergy stories. Are we wrap?
I want to talk real quick about the neti pot, because if somebody out there wants to try it, the neti pots are you can get them at Walgreens. They're they're in the wall, you can get relatively cheap.
Right.
But you take this little pot of water, it looks like a little tea kettle, and you put lukewarm water in it. Again, filtered water. I will reiterate, please use filtered water. You do not want gross stuff up in your nose. Or distilled water. If you're at Walgreens, just buy a bottle of distilled water at the same time. And then you mix a little saline in it. It comes, little packets come with it. And then you put on one side of your nose, you lean forward over the sink. So you're going to lean forward. You're going to open your mouth breathe like you said not to, but we're going to mouth breathe during this. And then as you're mouth breathing, almost like a pant, like, isn't that gross? I'm sorry. You put it up your nose and then it goes up. You're leaning forward. It goes up into your sinuses and comes out your other nose and drips down into the sink. The minute you close your mouth or try to swallow during that, the saline solution will run down the back of your throat and gag you. So you can absolutely do this. You can learn to do it. If it does go down your throat and you it's not like you're not dying. Yeah. It's just salt water, but it will clean out your nasal passages. And I always do it for like half of the thing. I go one way and then I blow my nose. And then I take it the other side and I go the other way and then I blow my nose. Yeah. And if you have a cold or have upset sinuses, it really is soothing for them. And I really do believe that it helps clear out the day's worth of pollen and all sorts of stuff that your filter system has filtered out for you. But if it's sitting in there and you have an allergy to it, it could increase the inflammation. So absolutely, getting that away. I like to do it before bed. Yeah.
And that's you made another really good point there, that the allergy or that the saline can be swallowed. I've got a phone ringing in the background. I apologize, everybody. But the iodine, the 1% iodine solution, anything that gets back into your throat, you want to spit out because you do not want to swallow the iodine. Saline, not a problem. We're mostly salt anyway.
You don't want to drink all saline all the time, but it won't hurt you a little bit.
No, that will clean you out in another way. And you'll be like, hey, thanks. I didn't want that.
No.
So
okay, you had couple things more about allergies.
So two things quick on allergies. One, my allergies have gone to almost zero, with the exception of when I am in the middle of a field that is fresh pollen, or I'm cutting grass, or they are, plowing the field. My allergies with being under Blair care, right to zero.
Yep.
Second, I had a patient. She was an assistant here in the office, and she'd had horrible allergies and migraines forever. In fact, her allergies would trigger a migraine. But she's under chiropractic care. Her migraines have gone away almost to zero. Mm-hmm. We fly down to Atlanta, Georgia, in April for one of our apicervical evolutions. I don't think I've ever really appreciated pollen the way that I saw it for the first time. I've flown all over the country, but I've never necessarily seen it, a full-on pollen storm like what they get down in the South. And it was, like you said, that green, yellow, just stuff over everything. I had no problems with allergies. She had no problems with allergies. And the only time she had a migraine is, I think she was studying for something and she fell out of adjustment, and I had to adjust her, and in about a couple hours she was better. So it's really amazing what getting your head on straight will do to get you everything else. And then these other things are quite honestly just extras.
You got to have your head on straight first, but these other things absolutely help me. And I used to have to be medicated during the allergy season back in high school and things, because I was miserable. Yeah. I don't anymore. Like I haven't taken allergy medicine in
that's great
15, 20 years.
Yeah. I and when I took it, I couldn't function. So
no, gosh.
I was
there's lots of different ones, but there's some that knock you out.
Which is why I would rather actually just have a runny nose. But when I was doing engineering, I would just rather have a runny nose and be blowing my nose all day long, because I'm like, hey, it's allergies. Don't worry about me. 2 or 3 hankies deep. I could work, but I couldn't. You give me an allergy medication, I'd be out for the day. It was no good. Any case, Dr.
Anything
Bagley?
anything else about allergies? Because I've got a couple things to talk about.
I think that wraps it up. And you told me there's something about you crying.
I've been crying.
Why have you been crying?
So as a female doctor, I cry a lot. So today I've cried 3 times, and not anything about me. It's that when people tell me things, happy or not happy, I cry. If they cry, I cry. I can't stop. That's just part of who I am.
Right.
I cry at commercials. I cry. That's just that it is. And I used to be embarrassed about it, but I'm not anymore, because it just means like I'm an awesome human being. But I can't tell you, I'm honored to cry with my patients. I am honored that they would share things with me, happy or sad, that are so emotional. And I think there's no one but a chiropractor. I'm sure there's other great other doctors out there, but I can't imagine going to my medical doctor. I don't have one right now, but if I did have a medical doctor, going there and saying, hey, this amazing thing happened, and then being like, that's right. So I'm just so very honored that I get to be a chiropractor, a Blair upper cervical chiropractor, and have these emotional connections with people.
Yeah.
It's not a job. It's the best job, but I don't know what else, profession that in the world. And me and you could make money a lot of different ways.
Oh, we've had the offers over the years to make stupid money
doing, because we got brains and we're smart, sciencey people.
We'd be in some sort of engineering field.
I'd be in molecular technology,
stressed out to our nth degree.
Maybe. Get to take better vacations.
That is a fact. That is a fact. We would take better vacations. But I
wouldn't, the fulfillment, like I would not have fulfillment. I didn't back when I worked in biotech and stuff. So this week, I should have had this on my phone already. I had actually last night, I got a text or an email that had this review from a patient that we've been working with for 8-9 months. And do you mind if I read it? It's kind of long.
Go ahead.
Look at that.
Read it.
So a Google review, usually they're like 2 sentences. Like, I like this doctor. She's great. Well, this one's long, and I love it though. It's so heartfelt and explains a lot about, honestly, this is how a person who is not a chiropractor explains upper cervical chiropractic to someone. And I was just like, yes. And what's so cool is these are things that I say to my patients, and some of them listen, which is incredible. So April of 2022, I developed a bad ear infection, which lasted for 2 weeks. Afterward, I continued to have feelings of pressure and sharp nerve pain in my inner ear, often spreading down into my jaw. I saw an ear specialist who suggested it might be Meniere's disease, an incurable and disabling degenerative condition of the inner ear, which can eventually lead to severe vertigo attacks. He advised a low sodium diet and told me to call him if it got worse. I started low-key panicking when persistent tinnitus, another Meniere's symptom, joined the inner ear pain. And I decided to see what I could figure out on my own. A Google search on Meniere's disease led me to an article on the Blair Chiropractic website. Way to go, Tracy. Which stated that many supposed cases of Meniere's or Meniere's type symptoms are actually caused by an upper cervical misalignment, not inner ear dysfunction. I had nothing to lose, and a low sodium diet certainly wasn't helping. So I made an appointment with Dr. Bagley. X-rays showed that my top 3 vertebra, the very top vertebra, C1 is right next to the inner ears, were indeed badly out of alignment, and my head was slightly tilting to one side, the side that was cradling a phone against my shoulder for the previous 2 years at my job. The very first adjustment left no doubt that it was what I was needing. it felt like some kind of pressure or constriction that I wasn't even aware of had been released, and more oxygen was flowing to my brain. Oh, isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
I felt euphoric. Subsequent adjustments didn't have the same euphoria as the first, but as the weeks passed, my symptoms consistently became less and less. Now, I would say that the issue is essentially resolved. I'm at the point where additional adjustments are preventative maintenance rather than addressing symptoms. I started the adjustments in June 2022, and now it's February 1st, 2023, and it took about 6 to 7 months, starting with biweekly sessions, then gradually reducing to frequency to weekly, bi-monthly, and then monthly. I don't have words sufficient to express my gratitude for Dr. Bagley. I found myself with a very painful and debilitating condition, and she gave me my life back. As far as I'm concerned, I don't want to read this. It's embarrassing. As far as I'm concerned, she's an angel of healing straight from heaven.
Clearly.
Right. I am.
You are.
If I hadn't serendipitously, there, I said it right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a good reader, guys. I'm sorry. Come across that Blair Chiropractic webpage, I don't know what kind of shape I'd be in now, but it wouldn't be good. Upper cervical chiropractic. Yes, that's what it says. Upper cervical chiropractic is legit. There's absolutely no way some kind of placebo Jedi mind trick could have resolved my symptoms. And now I tell everyone who will listen about it. Aaron and Dr. Shiloh have been thoroughly great and supportive as well. If I could give 500 stars, I would. Thank you. GK.
That's awesome. That
right?
Is absolutely awesome.
Isn't that the best review?
And
I want to, this person, they did not identify themselves on the review, so I won't either. But this person, I'm just going to give a big old hug to when I see them.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And that's just one of the many different conditions that respond well like that. I had, I've talked about, and we should maybe pull a video clip from when I talked about this another time. But I talked about a couple, they happen to be in today, and she's still doing better.
Nice.
And it's been, let's see, it's 18. They started in 18. And it's now 23, so 5 years.
Wow.
But she still has, she's functional. Yeah. She's got problems.
Absolutely. This does not solve everything, because
no.
Upper cervical is not the only reason people have problems.
Right.
But it solves a lot.
It does. And it's a foundation that you can build everything else on. Yeah, nutrition's great, food is good, but if your body is not working the way it's supposed to, I always like using the analogy, you can have the best toaster in the world and the best bread in the world, but if you can't plug that toaster into the outlet to get electricity, it ain't going to work. You will never have toast. So what we do is, by putting that head back on straight, putting that atlas back to where it's supposed to be, you got electricity, you got things connected and working the way they're supposed to, but everyone heals at different paces. Yes. That's great that in 6 months, their life is, back together. They are not afraid of living. Yep. Other people, the one that was in it today, she's living her life. Little things, she'll hold the remote, and then all of a sudden goes flying out of her hand. It's her husband says it's very comical. He doesn't know why he doesn't have cameras around the living room to catch it. But everything starts at a certain pace, and you got to start. Sometimes you got to get checked more frequently at the beginning to figure out
that's a really good point.
Going on.
And I love that they brought that up. Dang it, and. It's 50-50.
Yeah.
So the frequency of care and what the difference is between conventional chiropractic and us, Blair chiropractors, because there are some big differences.
Yes.
The first thing I always think of is what holding means.
Right.
So getting a chiropractic adjustment, a Blair upper cervical adjustment, is precise. It's made for you. It's made for you, your particular bone structure. and the misalignment that has occurred on top of that bone structure. What holding means is when we put the bone where it was supposed to be, and now all the signals are telling us, the leg length checks, the nerve scan, palpation are telling us now it's where it needs to be. And when it's where it needs to be, I don't have any business touching it.
Hands off. In fact, I had a patient in this week who she's like, after she got adjusted on Monday, she hadn't been in for a while. She was having all sorts of weird stuff going on from visiting with another doctor. Excuse me. But she's like, what is happening here? And I took a look and I'm like, oh, we got to get this. And he needs to come to my seminar, which is another story altogether. But so we got her C2 adjusted, which was stuck and locked out of place. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, she's like, oh, that feels better. And then all of a sudden she starts getting these tingling sensations going through her body that she hasn't experienced. And it's like this wave of energy that's turning back on. And like your patient said, that first, the sort of euphoria after the first adjustment, what level of health did that person come from? Where were they? How low were they after the adjustment, and how high did that first adjustment get them to? And what do we do by keeping keep checking people on a regular basis early on is to keep you up at that higher level so that you don't fall back to that horrible, for lack of a better way to describe, pit of despair. Yes. That you're slowly bringing yourself out of as your body heals. And it's a cyclical cycle that takes time. And right off the bat, you need to get checked a little bit more frequently just to make sure something weird isn't going to happen.
So some chiropractor or upper cervical chiropractors have used the and I don't know where the basis is, and maybe you can tell me.
Sure.
Is that for every year you've been out of alignment, it takes a month of healing.
Right.
Now, I don't know what kind of proof there is on that. I do feel like it's somewhat true.
That's one of those anecdotal things where I don't know if we could ever.
Oh, there's no way to prove it.
There's no way to define it. I think it holds true based upon years and years and years of clinical experience. I know Dr. Brooks was the one who told me that the first time, and he had been in practice for 40 years at that point in time. God bless him.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
What a great man.
He was. But he had sought that's what his experience was. And people need to understand that sometimes you can hold for months at a time. And sometimes you can hold for minutes at a time. And depends on what's happening in your body at that moment. Or just pulling out. I have seen outside of your office, I remember grabbing a cup of coffee, looking out the window, and all of a sudden seeing a complete accident happen in front of your office on, what is that, Big Bend or
Doherty Ferry? Yeah, that is a notorious place for accidents there.
Right. So you could just literally pull out of a parking lot, I'm not even saying you have a car accident. I'm just saying the stress of driving through traffic might be enough to set you off. Or you decide to go ice skating in the parking lot, which I don't recommend.
I don't recommend that either.
Yeah, that
has been icy this week too.
It has. Mm-hmm. It has. But we have to start somewhere. And, most conventional chiropractors, in fact, I just had a soon-to-be patient, found out that she used to go see Dr. Matthias beforehand. But she made the comment, it's like, man, if I go to a new chiropractor, they're going to want me to start 3 times a week for the rest of my life. And I'm like, no, we don't even do that. It's just 2 times a week.
Sometimes if they have been under upper cervical care at even another type of upper cervical doctor, we might see you 2 times a week to establish what your pattern is. Yeah. But once we see that you're holding well, we'll decrease it.
Yeah.
But typically in my patients, it's about 6 weeks of twice a week. And
I do the same.
Then I see more of a holding. There might be some holds in there, but I see more of a pattern of holding where I can say, okay, let's do once a week.
Yeah.
And I typically do that for about 8 to 10 weeks after that of once a week.
Yeah. And it just varies upon the individual. I've got some people that within 4 weeks after their first adjustment, they haven't needed another correction. Everything is staying where it's supposed to be.
That is some people.
And I usually recommend a package of visits.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we don't need, these next couple of visits. Let's extend this out, because maybe what's going to happen is instead of needing just 6 weeks of once a week, they need that 8 weeks, or they need a 10-week of once a week, because that's sort of where their cycle is before we can move them to 2 weeks, to 3 weeks, to 4 weeks. I have some patients where I'll see them every 6 to 8 weeks, depending upon how well they're doing. I've got one who she 90? She's certainly in her late 80s, if not early 90s, who has been holding since September. And we had the hardest time getting her to hold. And all of a sudden, it just clicked. It's been doing good. She hasn't, thankfully, she hasn't gone face planting anywhere.
No, not allowed. Nope.
She had a couple of those in the past year, but not recently. And the other nice thing is, especially with the cone beam, it is so much easier when you have, if you have an injury or accident, all right, something changed. We
just pop you in there and figure it out.
And now with the cone beam, or if someone's not holding as well as they are, we can take a new cone beam and just figure out where things are. So this is important, because again, the goal is not to see us for the rest of our lives, because I joke with patients, there are some really great ways to lift weights that will buy a boat for your orthopedic surgeon.
Yep.
You're not going to buy boats for us. We don't like boats. We're not boat people.
I'm not a boat person either.
No.
Boats are expensive.
But more importantly, what we want to do is we want to get people well, happy. We want those kind of testimonials, because we know that person.
I honestly want to make my money seeing more people, the referrals that we get from the people that we've helped. And,
Exactly.
I'd rather do that than anything. It's not about the money. It's about the people, that the more people that we see. I don't need to see you twice a week for the rest of your life. I would get tired of some people.
There's some people that I'm like, Mary, I love you, but I don't need to see you for another month. I know you've been in here every week for the past 6, and I know you love talking, but I can't have that. Mary, I can't have that conversation with you. I'm sorry. I'm just going to schedule you out for a month, especially when you haven't needed to be adjusted in 2. So,
yeah, and honestly, people they know once. The first time you go to an upper cervical chiropractor, Blair chiropractor like us, you are going to be skeptical, because it's different. It's different than a conventional chiropractor. Conventional chiropractor, a lot of times they'll adjust you the first time they see you, which is, that's them. That's fine. I'm not dissing them at all. But a lot of times we're not taking x-rays. It's cookie cutter. I feel tight here, pop, tight there, pop. And that does help a certain percentage of people. I know it does.
Got me in there. Well, actually, I had
it. Did. So. I started off as a chiropractic patient getting that kind of care.
Right.
But I also didn't understand. I was never taught. I never understood the idea of not just feeling better, but functioning better and staying that way.
Right.
And now that I realize that it's about function and the body working in a balanced way so that I can be healthy for a lifetime, I get checked regularly. Prior to that, I just waited until I hurt. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people do with conventional chiropractors and a lot of conventional chiropractors are okay with it, which again, that's their practice, is they'll say, well, come back when it gets bad. And I'm like, because I don't want to wait till it gets bad.
Yeah.
That's silly. We don't have to do that. And that's the idea of preventative care or protection care or maintenance care. All of them kind of mean the same thing. Is we want to preemptively strike. We want to get on top of this before we get into trouble. Mm-hmm. And anyone can do that. It's just a matter of deciding that it's important and valuable to you.
Absolutely.
But most people don't walk into my office thinking, I can't wait to be a chiropractic patient for the rest of my life.
No.
They want to get fixed and never see me again.
Yeah.
And I get it. I totally get it. But once they realize, like, wow, it is incredible having my head on straight and my body functioning the way it is, most of them decide that I kind of agree. I think I might want to stick with this maybe once a month or quarterly or whatever their body allows them to hold forever. And I love that because they're making a decision to be well for their lifetime rather than wait for something to come and get them.
Exactly.
Whether it's a herniated disc or, digestive troubles or whatever. Like, there's so much prevention that happens with, especially, I think, Blair upper cervical care.
Well, absolutely. And, getting back to that once a month of one month of holding equals a year of healing. It addresses some things, because let's identify, at the very least, most of our patients coming in to get this kind of care, and especially this is upper cervical care that we're talking about. This is the Blair care that we're talking about. We're not talking about regular chiropractic care for holding is healing, because quite honestly, as much as I love some of the other chiropractors in our profession, you go in and you get adjusted every time. Never
did I ever go into a chiropractic office prior to upper cervical and not get adjusted.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, they're like, more adjustments is better. Whereas we're on the opposite end of the spectrum. Less is better. And the longer you can hold, the better everything works. But at the very least, we're seeing people in their certainly late 20s to 40s or 50s. And what I remember John Hillpish telling me, and there are two really big numbers that this is the bonus for everyone who's listened to this point in the podcast. This is the secret sauce that nobody wants to hear, but is reality, that this kind of chiropractic care is not a sprint, it is a marathon. And if you figure out that 1 month to for a year, if you've been on the planet longer than 36 years, that's 3 years. It takes 3 years to really heal past that. And a lot of people at the 3-year mark, the 5-year mark, and the 10-year mark, and again, this was Dr. John Hillpish who shared this with me, those are where some of the biggest health gains happen. And who wouldn't like to have a little bit of the clock rolling back physiologically? I mean, you can't, we're still going to make a rotation around the planet every 365 days. But if we can roll back the physiological age, which is a lot of what's going on, and holding is a big part of that, then that's going to make things better.
An interesting thing is when a patient, like this week, I had a patient, he has head pain. And not headache, head pain, and wants to get adjusted to get rid of the head pain. And I was like, well, we don't treat symptoms, but it could be related to a nerve that's going into your head. Absolutely. And if we adjust your spine, it could get better. I can't promise anything, but this is a very big possibility that they could be related, because you definitely have an upper cervical misalignment. And so we get him adjusted this week, Monday, I think it was Monday night. And he comes in today and he goes, well, my head pain's not any better. I was like, yeah, I know it's going to take time. He goes, but my hip pain's gone. But your body will prioritize things, and it does. I can't predict what it's going to heal and when, but he had chronic hip pain and it went away with one adjustment, but it's not what he came in for.
Yeah, no. And it's funny because last Friday after we'd finished up here, I'm walking around, or last Thursday night, I'm walking around at home getting dinner and everything. And I sit down and I'm like, that's just not feeling right in my hip. Friday morning, I wake up planning on doing my kettlebell workout, end of week 6. I'm on to week 7 now. But I go to pick up the kettlebell because it's like my right hip is feeling a mess. And I go to bend over and I don't want to. And it's so funny. And I'm like, all right, who am I going to come? Which one of the Vanyo brothers can I get into this morning?
Yep.
And sure enough, I got my Atlas and C4 put back into place, and
wow,
the hip got better. The neck wasn't bothering me. The sinuses weren't bothering me.
And it's not always like, that's what it is hard to explain to people. And it's hard to believe at first, is that it's not just neck pain. Like just because you have a misalignment in your neck, we might be able to find a tender spot when we poke on it, but it might not just, a lot of people are like, I didn't even know that hurt until you touched it. Exactly. And I was like, yeah, it's not about pain. And it's not necessarily about neck pain. It's about how your body's functioning. And, are you in a pattern of dysfunction? And if that is happening and it's related to this misalignment, subluxation, it doesn't have to be pain related. Yeah. It could be function related, or it could, you could, as children will come in and get checked and they might not have any symptoms, but their parents just know it's time to get checked. And I teach a lot of my parents to do leg length checks on their kids. So that I'm like, hey, every so often when they're laying down, check their leg lengths. And if you see it pulling up, it's time to come back in.
Yep.
Because they can't, that's not secret or impossible for them to check. And honestly, if you're listening to this podcast right now and you have kids, make them lay down. I do it on face up because it's easier for kids to do that, but you could do face up or face down. Make sure their feet are lined up. I like to have their shoes on. It's easier to see with shoes, and push up evenly on both of their feet. And if their heels line up, great. And if they don't, do it again. And if it's still lining up with like the left leg short, still short, they need to get checked.
Yep, absolutely. The funny story, while we're thinking about the kids, especially for kids that don't have symptoms, this young boy was doing all sorts of weird stuff. He was doing something weird with his hand, his
like
eyes.
Tourette's stuff?
It's a Tourette's. No, it's tics. It's more of a seizure thing because his uncle has a seizure, and they're wondering how much. He's having similar responses. Grandma basically said, "Yeah, that's the same thing your Uncle Kevin has." Or had when he was young before the seizures started. Uncle Kevin.
Oh, Lord, no.
Uncle Kevin is not good about keeping his appointments. He knows that, but we'll see him in a couple of weeks. But, and that was the joke I made with him and the boys. Hey, do you guys know where your Uncle Kevin is? And they're like, nope. And I said, neither do I. I just know he's not in town. He travels a lot. But the youngest one, and this is the best part, honestly, I don't think mom or dad told me about this. But this boy, I got to go back and take a look at how old he is, but I thought he was 5 or 6. And because his twin brothers look to be about 8 or 9. They all have the same problem, but they've only had the youngest one in so far. I did not realize, you hear about kids wetting the bed. Not only was this kid wetting the bed, he was wetting himself throughout the day. He is staying dry now since we've kept him got him under care.
That's incredible.
His eyes are starting to line up better. And the twitching that he was doing with his hand, mom hasn't seen in a couple of weeks. So, and I think I seem to recall he was dad was the one who was out of that crew this past time around. But it was really, I'm so excited. And then mom tells me, we got to get the other 2 boys in. They've got problems too. And it's like, and for someone who had bedwetting problems, man, I wish my folks knew that this would help.
Oh, gosh. I mean, it's so embarrassing for kids. They want to go spend the night at a friend's house. They can't. No. There was no spending nights at the friend's house. I mean, in fact, the rule was because I had problems, no one in the family was allowed to go have sleepovers at all. And I think the first sleepover that I ever did, we didn't sleep because we were either 8th grade, certainly junior high, high school, sleepovers when you're that old.
And we played D&D. all night long. And
my kids just played D&D with their friends last
Mountain
night.
Dew. So yes, it was a grand old
Don't
time.
drink that. Don't drink that. That's really bad.
No. I won't.
Not anymore. I don't touch
that stuff anymore. But back in the day,
I didn't know what I didn't know.
You could get gallon buckets.
Gross. It's so gross.
Yeah. So,
any case, it makes me upset in my stomach just thinking about actual soda.
I'm not.
If you are currently drinking soda, by the way, you can drink water. Like, I know you're like, it doesn't taste good. It will absolutely taste good in like 2 weeks. You have to just stop the soda because gross.
Go buy some Zevia or any of these.
I think you should just do cold turkey or flavored. Like, when you say flavored water, not sweetened flavored water, like a LaCroix or something like that.
Right. Zevia would be okay because Zevia
we drink those.
Is stevia flavored or is sweetened. So if you need something sweet, but if you've had the sugar, stevia doesn't do it right. It's wrong.
Just to get off the soda. I used to drink soda like water. That's how I lived. I thought that was okay. Diet caffeine free
Coca-Cola Coke. Here. Oh
yeah, I was diet caffeine free Coke. It was probably even worse.
No, I had the high octane stuff. I'd rather have the high octane stuff all the time.
Oh yeah, no, I honestly I'd rather people drink the high octane stuff than.
Did I tell you what I used to get off Coca-Cola?
Cocaine.
Close. I drank literally a gallon a day of Tropicana. What was it? It was grapefruit juice. It was the ruby red grapefruit juice back in the day. And then later I find out some of the stuff they do to color that. And I'm just like, oh, there's some allergens in there.
Oh, heck yeah.
But I was drinking a gallon of that a day.
A gallon?
A gallon. I mean, just imagine. I was losing weight because I wasn't drinking Coke. But I was still, I wasn't losing weight that fast. So
no, because it was all sugar.
Yeah, but that got me off my Coca-Cola, and it got me off caffeine too.
Oh, that's true. The caffeine. And I'm not anti-caffeine. You're not anti-caffeine either.
No. I'm pro coffee. I'm pro coffee.
You're very pro coffee.
All day long.
I'm a tea girl. So I'm not anti-caffeine. A lot of people think we're anti-caffeine because we do have a rule in our office as one of the scans we do is affected by caffeine. So we try to get people not to drink caffeine for about 4 hours before coming in, just to try to take. Now that doesn't always work out. There's a lot of people who just.
I'd rather be consistent that you are drinking, because there are some people that need a cup of coffee just for the skin.
That's a good point. Properly. If they are consistent. See, the problem is a lot of times they're not consistent.
Right.
And that's the bigger issue.
Which is also why it's important that we schedule your appointments and follow-ups
around the
same time, so that your habits and the habits of that we are creating by checking you at the same time give us a consistent pattern, so we know whether or not you are in or out of adjustment. And more importantly, when you're coming in and aching and the graph looks good and the legs look good, we can be convicted in telling you everything is all right. You are going through something else. Because sometimes
it almost always is.
Because oftentimes it's just a stress response that we are missing in that is overwhelming other things that might either be causing you problems or causing the system to tell us something different. So.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to go over in this wonderful podcast before we close it up?
Good place to wrap it up, and we will go from there. Everyone, go find us on YouTube and like and subscribe. Make sure you give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or whatever your favorite podcast app is. That makes sure other people find us, because I don't know what the algorithm is, but I know there's an algorithm, and I know.
Well, it's not going to be like, ooh, let's promote Blair Chiropractic.
Exactly.
People.
Exactly. In fact, we are going to be at the bottom of the barrel because
we're like sad.
Because they would rather us not. They
don't want us to talk, but you can help us get people to listen. If you think we're awesome, because we are. We really are. Share it. Tell people about us. Even word of mouth. You could actually open your mouth and talk, but even better, share it on socials. Let us know and give us some reviews.
Absolutely.
Good reviews, please.
Yes, please. 5-star reviews. Those are the ones that help. If you're looking for me in Springfield, Illinois, or the Central Illinois area, I'm at KeystoneChiroSPI.com.
And I'm at PrecisionChiroSTL, like St. Louis.com. Have a great week, guys.
You too. Or we'll be back in 7 days.
Bye.
Bye.
That's all for today's episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed today's show with Drs. Bagley and Schurger, remember, don't give up and just live with the pain. Come back next week and get more answers and solutions. Visit our websites at KeystoneChiroSPI.com and PrecisionChiropracticSTL.com for more info, and catch all the episodes of The Blonde and the Bald.